Clara's body, covered in her towel, still dripped with water as she stood facing the master of the house. Leonard Aaron, the cold billionaire, had just caught her using the same bathroom he had warned all his staff to stay away from. She didn't even get a chance to change. Leonard was furious enough already for her to make it worse. "Give me one reason, Clara. One good reason why I shouldn't fire you right now," he said furiously. In Clara's heart, she had already accepted he was going to fire her anyway, but what he demanded next left her speechless. Dear viewers, this story is one filled with emotions, so I'd ask you stay with me to the end. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel if this story piques your interest. The Aaron mansion stood on the edge of the hill like a museum piece, beautiful, expensive, but lifeless. 3 years had passed since Laura Aaron's death, and the house had never felt alive again. Every sound, every step, seemed afraid to disturb the quiet. The workers moved like ghosts, whispering to each other only when necessary. Leonard Aaron had once been known as a warm man, generous and polite. But the day his wife died inside the upstairs bathroom, something inside him froze. Since then, he spoke little, smiled less, and never allowed anyone to enter that part of the house. The staff learned fast: keep your head down, follow instructions, stay out of his way. When the new maid arrived, she didn't know any of this. Clara came with her small suitcase and a hopeful heart. She was only 28, soft-spoken, with a habit of smiling even when nervous. The housekeeper, Mrs. Lewis, handed her a list of chores and a stern warning. "Do your job well, and you'll be fine. But stay away from the master's private floor." "Understood?" "Yes, ma'am," Clara answered quickly, clutching the paper. She didn't ask why. In her mind, rich people always had strange rules. Her first 2 days passed quietly. She polished the silver, cleaned the grand staircase, and made sure every curtain was aligned exactly as Mrs. Lewis wanted. The mansion's beauty amazed her. The marble floors that shone like mirrors, the chandeliers shaped like upside-down castles, the rows of framed photographs that told a story of love now turned to memory. Every evening, around 7, Leonard returned from work. The moment his car entered the gate, the staff would scatter like birds. Clara noticed it on her first night. Mr. Harrison, the butler, would straighten his tie and warn in a low voice, "Keep the hallway clear. Mr. Aaron doesn't like noise." So she hid behind the corridor wall, watching him from a distance. He walked with calm authority, tall and composed, carrying grief that showed in his eyes even when his face stayed expressionless. He looked like a man who'd forgotten what peace felt like. By the 3rd night, Clara felt exhausted. The day had been long, full of polishing and mopping. Her back ached, and her uniform clung to her skin. All she wanted was a shower before bed. The staff bathroom behind the quarters was tiny but usually fine. That night, when she turned the tap, only air came out with a weak hiss. She tried again. Nothing. She sighed, glancing around helplessly. Buckets sat empty in the corner, and everyone else had already gone to sleep. "I can't sleep like this," she muttered. Her whole body smelled of cleaning polish and sweat. She thought of asking the others for help but realized they'd all gone to bed. Her uniform was sticky with sweat, and she couldn't sleep like that. Then she remembered the grand bathroom she'd seen earlier that day, the one with gold fixtures and white marble tiles. It had looked unused, spotless, and oddly peaceful. Her heart thumped. Would it be wrong? She wondered. She had no idea it was the late Mrs. Aaron's bathroom, no clue about the tragedy tied to it. All she knew was that she needed water. "I'll be quick," she whispered to herself. Clara climbed the grand staircase quietly, her footsteps light against the marble. The hall was dim, lit only by a few wall lamps. The air smelled faintly of lavender, like an old memory that refused to fade. She opened the door slowly, expecting dust or cobwebs, but the place looked spotless, almost sacred. The tub sparkled. The mirror was clean. Fresh towels were folded neatly on the rack. She hesitated for a few seconds, then stepped inside. The first splash of warm water felt like heaven. She let out a long breath, washing away the tiredness of the day. Without realizing it, she began humming a tune her late mother used to sing whenever she felt safe. The melody echoed softly against the tiled walls. Downstairs, the mansion remained silent. At that same hour, Leonard's black car rolled through the gate. It was past 9, and he'd just returned from a board meeting. His driver had dropped him off, and as usual, the mansion greeted him with emptiness. He loosened his tie and started toward his room when he heard it, the sound of water running. He paused halfway up the staircase. No one was supposed to be upstairs at this time. His brows pulled together. Did the staff forget to turn off a faucet? He climbed slowly, following the sound. The closer he got, the clearer another noise became, a soft humming, almost musical. The song drifted through the hallway like a ghost from the past. Leonard stopped dead. That melody. His breath caught in his throat. 3 years ago, Laura used to hum the same tune every evening while she bathed. It was her favorite lullaby, the last sound he'd heard from her before everything went wrong. His grip on the staircase railing tightened. Part of him wanted to turn back, to pretend he hadn't heard it. But another part, stronger, angrier, pushed him forward. His heart began to pound. He reached the bedroom door. The sound of the shower was louder now, mixed with that haunting melody. Steam slid from under the bathroom door, curling into the hall like a whisper. Leonard's jaw clenched. His mind told him it was impossible, but his body moved anyway. He placed a hand on the doorknob and turned it. The door creaked open. Warm air and the smell of soap hit his face. Through the slightly transparent shower curtain, a woman's silhouette moved under the stream of water. His chest tightened, grief and fury swirling together. "Who's in there?" he demanded, his voice echoing off the marble. The humming stopped. For a second, only the sound of dripping water filled the room. Then came a trembling voice, small and scared. "Sir, it's me, Clara." Leonard's eyes darkened. The new maid. He stepped back, every emotion crashing at once. That forbidden place, her place, violated by a stranger. "Turn off the water," he said, his tone sharp as a blade. "Meet me in the sitting room, now." He didn't wait for an answer. The door slammed behind him as he walked out, his footsteps heavy on the floor. Downstairs, the living room lights glowed faintly against the night. His pulse hadn't slowed. In his head, the song kept replaying, that same tune Laura used to hum. It felt like the house itself was mocking him. He sat on the edge of the couch, staring into the empty fireplace. His thoughts blurred between anger and something deeper, pain he thought he'd buried long ago. Upstairs, Clara stood frozen, water still dripping down her arms. Her heart raced. She didn't even know what rule she'd broken, only that she had just made the worst mistake of her life. Leonard sat still in the sitting room, his elbows resting on his knees, his eyes fixed on the floor. He could hear the faint echo of dripping water from upstairs. It was as if the house itself had come alive again, forcing him to remember the sound he had tried to forget for 3 years. His hands tightened together. He told himself it was just anger, just another act of disobedience from the staff, but deep down he knew it wasn't. That melody had shaken something inside him, something that had been buried under grief. A few minutes later, soft footsteps came down the staircase. Clara walked in slowly, her hair still damp, her eyes red. She stood near the edge of the room, unsure whether to speak or wait. Leonard lifted his gaze, and for a moment he said nothing. His silence was heavier than any shout. "Do you have any idea," he began finally, his voice calm but cold, "what you've just done?" Clara clasped her hands together. "Sir, I didn't mean any disrespect. The bathroom in the staff quarters isn't working, so He cut her off sharply. "So you decided to use my private bathroom?" She froze. "I didn't know it was yours, sir." His jaw tightened. "You didn't think to ask?" I thought it was empty. I'm new here, sir. No one told me. Leonard leaned back in his chair, studying her face. Her voice trembled, but her eyes didn't lie. She looked terrified, not arrogant. That almost made it worse. He stood up slowly, walking toward the window. His reflection stared back at him from the glass. The same tired man he'd seen every day since Laura's death. That bathroom, he said quietly, wasn't just mine. It belonged to my wife. Clara's breath caught. Her lips parted, but no words came. She died in there, Leonard continued, his tone flat but pained. 3 years ago, while giving birth. She wanted to have the baby at home. The doctor couldn't make it in time. He stopped, turning halfway toward Clara. That room has been closed ever since. No one goes in there. Not the staff, not my family, not even me. Tears filled Clara's eyes as she whispered, "I'm sorry, sir. I swear I didn't know." Leonard's expression stayed hard. "Ignorance doesn't change what you did." She looked down at the floor, her fingers twisting together. "Please, sir. I didn't mean to disrespect her memory. I just needed to bathe, that's all." The air between them grew heavy again. The clock ticked louder, like it was counting the seconds until he decided her fate. Leonard turned fully toward her. "Give me one reason, Clara. One good reason why I shouldn't fire you right now." Her throat tightened. She tried to find her voice, but the words came out soft. "Because I truly didn't know, sir. I was told to stay out of your way, but no one mentioned the room. The staff bathroom doesn't work, and I was tired, sir. I didn't think anyone would notice." He narrowed his eyes. "That's your reason? Carelessness?" She blinked back tears. "No, sir. I didn't want to sleep dirty, that's all." Leonard's chest rose and fell slowly. He wanted to stay angry, to make an example out of her, but something about her tone stopped him. The words were too honest, too small to belong to someone trying to deceive him. He turned away again, but then asked suddenly, "The song, where did you learn it?" Clara looked up, startled. "Sir? The song you were humming in that bathroom. Where did you hear it?" Her voice grew softer. "It's a lullaby my late mother used to sing when I was little. I don't even remember where she learned it. I just hum it sometimes when I'm tired." Leonard's shoulders tensed, his hands clenched behind his back. "That song," he said quietly, "was my wife's favorite. She used to sing it every night before bed, even the day she died." He stopped talking for a moment, trying to control the tremor in his voice. Clara could see it the way his eyes shifted, how the cold mask he wore began to crack. "I remember hearing her sing it from downstairs," he continued, his tone slower now. "Then everything went quiet. By the time I got up there, she was gone." Clara's eyes filled again, her heart aching for him. She had stepped into a wound she never knew existed. "I'm sorry, sir," she said again, barely audible. Leonard turned back toward her, the anger in his face fading into exhaustion. "You're lucky, Clara. That song reminded me of her, or else I would have had you out of this house before midnight." Clara nodded quickly, her head bowed. "Thank you, sir. I promise it won't happen again." He took a deep breath and sat back down, his hand brushing across his forehead. For the first time in years, his voice softened. "Sit," he said quietly. Clara hesitated. "Sir?" I said, "sit." She obeyed, perching on the edge of a chair opposite him. He looked at her closely, as if seeing her for the first time. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap, but there was something calm in her eyes. Something honest, that reminded him faintly of Laura. "You're new," he said finally. "How long have you been here?" 3 days, sir." He nodded slowly. 3 days, and you've already broken a rule." Her lips pressed together. "It wasn't on purpose." "Nothing ever is," he muttered, leaning back. Silence filled the room again. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the night wind brushed against the windows. Finally, Leonard sighed. "I should fire you. That's what I would have done before tonight." She swallowed hard, her eyes fixed on the floor. But I won't, he added. Clara's head lifted slightly, hope flashing across her face. Sir? He looked away toward the window. I'll let you stay, but only on one condition. Her heart skipped. Condition? Yes, he said, turning to face her again. You'll find out soon enough. He stood up, straightening his suit jacket. That's all for tonight. Go back to your quarters. Clara nodded quickly, standing too. Thank you, sir. As she turned to leave, Leonard spoke again. Clara. She stopped at the door. Yes, sir? He paused before answering, his voice low. Don't hum that song again. Not in this house. She nodded silently and slipped out of the room. When she was gone, Leonard sat back down, staring at the empty fireplace again. The melody still echoed faintly in his mind. He hated it, yet a small part of him couldn't let it go. He rubbed his face, feeling the exhaustion in his chest. 3 years, he whispered to himself. And I still can't escape you, Laura. Upstairs, Clara sat on her bed, still shaking. She couldn't stop thinking about the pain in his voice, the way his anger seemed mixed with sorrow. She didn't understand why he had kept her job, but deep down she sensed this night had changed something. The next morning came quietly. The mansion looked calm from the outside, but inside, Clara moved with unease. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Leonard's face, his voice echoing. Don't hum that song again. She got up before sunrise and went about her duties as if nothing had happened. She swept the halls, wiped the tables, and polished the railings. But her mind stayed on the events of the night before. Why hadn't he fired her? Why say there was a condition but not tell her what it was? By noon, she had convinced herself it might have been an empty threat. Maybe he just wanted her to think about her mistake. Maybe it was over. Then, around 3 in the afternoon, Mr. Harrison entered the staff quarters. He looked as formal as ever, his voice steady and low. Clara, he said, Mr. Aaron wants to see you in the main sitting room. Immediately, her heart skipped. Did he say why? He shook his head. No. But don't keep him waiting. She wiped her hands quickly on her apron and followed him out. Every step toward the mansion's main wing made her chest tighten. She wasn't sure if she was walking toward a second chance or her final goodbye. Leonard was seated by the window when she entered, a cup of coffee untouched beside him. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting faint lines across his face. He didn't look up right away. Sit, he said simply. Clara obeyed, taking the chair across from him. Her palms were damp, her voice small. You asked for me, sir? He finally looked up. His eyes were calmer now, but still sharp. Yes. I thought about what happened last night. You broke a rule, but I also realized I might have been too harsh. Clara's eyes widened slightly. She didn't expect any kindness from him. I told you there would be a condition, he continued, his tone flat. I'm keeping your job, but I'll need something from you. Yes, sir, she said quickly. Anything you say. Leonard leaned back, folding his arms. This weekend, my company is hosting a corporate dinner. It's a formal event, important clients, board members, and the press. I was supposed to attend with my mother, but she's traveling that day. He paused, watching her face. You'll attend with me. The words hit her like a wave. Me, sir? Yes, you'll be my partner for the evening. Clara blinked rapidly, unsure she had heard him right. Sir, I don't think I understand. I'm just a maid. You have so many people you could take. What? He raised a hand, cutting her off. Don't get any ideas, Clara. It's not what you think. His tone was cool, but steady. The song you sang reminded me of her. That's the only reason I'm giving you this chance. For one evening, you'll accompany me. Nothing more. Her mouth went dry. She nodded slowly, though she could barely process it. If that's what it takes to keep my job, sir, I'll do it. Leonard gave a single nod. Good. Mrs. Lewis will help you get something suitable to wear. The event is in 2 days. He stood, signaling the conversation was over. But as he turned toward the window, his voice softened slightly. And, Clara, he said without looking back, Try not to overthink this. It's just one night." "Yes, sir," she said quietly. When she left the room, her steps felt heavy and uncertain. Every staff member she passed gave her curious looks. Word traveled fast in the mansion, and within an hour, whispers filled the air. By evening, Mrs. Lewis called her into a small guest room. On the bed lay a sleek black dress, still in its box. "Mr. Aaron asked that you wear this," she said plainly. Clara stared at it, her hands trembling slightly. "I've never worn anything like this before." Mrs. Lewis gave her a small smile. "Then you'll have to start now. He's a man of pride. If he asked you to go, make sure you don't embarrass him." Clara nodded, though her stomach was tight with nerves. She spent the rest of the night cleaning quietly, but her thoughts wouldn't stop spinning. Why her? Out of all the people in his world, why choose the maid he nearly fired? The next day passed quickly. Leonard barely spoke to her, only giving short instructions about the event. His tone was professional, distant, but not cruel. It confused her even more. Finally, the evening arrived. Clara stood before the mirror in the dress Mrs. Lewis had given her. It fit perfectly, simple but elegant. She looked at herself and almost didn't recognize the woman in the reflection. When she came downstairs, Leonard was already waiting by the door. He wore a tailored black suit, his tie neatly set. For a moment, his eyes rested on her, and though his face remained unreadable, something flickered in his expression, something almost human. "You look presentable," he said shortly. "Thank you, sir," she replied. They drove to the venue in silence. The car hummed softly, city lights flickering outside. Clara sat with her hands clasped, her nerves showing in the way she glanced at her reflection on the car window. Leonard finally spoke. "Don't talk too much when we arrive. Just smile, answer politely, and let me handle the rest." "Yes, sir." The car pulled up before a grand hotel entrance, lined with flashing cameras and guests in gowns and tuxedos. Clara's heart pounded as they stepped out. Photographers turned, their cameras clicking at Leonard immediately. He nodded at them, expression steady, his hand at his side. For a brief second, Clara hesitated on the steps, unsure what to do. Then Leonard turned slightly, giving her a small look that silently told her to walk beside him. Inside, the hall glittered with golden lights and quiet chatter. Waiters moved gracefully, carrying trays of champagne. Clara followed Leonard closely, trying to stay calm as people stared, whispering among themselves. "Is that Mr. Aaron?" one voice murmured. "Who's the woman with him?" "She doesn't look like his usual date," another said softly. Leonard ignored them all. He introduced her politely to a few board members, keeping his composure. To anyone watching, it might have looked normal, but Clara could feel his guarded energy. Every word he spoke carried control, every gesture measured. At one point, a colleague joked, "Didn't know you'd finally bring someone along, Leonard. She's lovely." Leonard's answer was brief. "She's a friend." Clara's heart skipped at that word, though she knew he didn't mean it in any deep way. Still, hearing it in front of all those people softened something in her chest. The evening went by slowly. Clara stayed close, quietly observing the man who everyone respected but no one really knew. Beneath his calm surface, she saw something else, a loneliness that matched his silence. When the dinner ended, they returned home in the same quiet they'd left in. The car moved smoothly through the night, the city lights fading behind them. As they approached the mansion, Leonard spoke suddenly. "You handled yourself well." Clara turned to him, surprised. "Thank you, sir." He gave a faint nod. "You kept your composure. My mother would have approved." That name Mother reminded her again of the empty space his wife had left. She wanted to say something comforting, but she didn't dare. When the car stopped, he stepped out first, then turned slightly as she followed. "Go get some rest," he said softly. She nodded and started toward her quarters, but before she disappeared into the hallway, he spoke again. "Clara." She turned back. "Yes, sir?" He looked at her quietly for a few seconds before speaking. "That song," he said, his tone low. What did your mother call it? Clara blinked. She called it a heart that waits, sir. Leonard nodded slowly. He turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, unsure what to feel. As she went back to her room, she realized something had changed. The man who had once looked at her with anger now carried a different kind of silence, one that felt less cold, almost human. For the first time since she arrived, Clara finally felt calm in the Aaron mansion. She didn't understand why, but she knew the story between them wasn't over yet. Dear viewers, what a story, right? Clara's innocence touched a heart that had been frozen for years, but this is only the beginning. What happens when emotions start to grow between a maid and a billionaire still haunted by his past? This story goes deeper than just love. Part 2 of this story is coming very soon, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when it drops. And before you go, drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you.